2 days of riots.
We need you guys to back up. We need you guys to back up, sir.
Weeks of unrest.
1, 2, 3,
Pain and anger aimed at officers. Unprotected and in plain view. Violence and destruction that stemmed from an arrest made on the morning
I've been recording.
of April 12th, 2015.
What car they come out of, yo?
The injuries Freddie Gray suffered in police custody cost the 25-year-old his life, while officers involved stood accused. Not one was convicted.
There is no way in the world somebody got to be guilty. The boy is dead. He didn't kill himself.
I want the police to be able to do their job.
A pursuit for justice that some say failed miserably and cost taxpayers roughly $7.5 million. But the real cost came on the street, where officers became fearful to do their job. A shift in power that led good officers to call it quits and federal intervention.
We conclude that there is reasonable cause to believe that BPD engages in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the Constitution.
Gray's death launched a federal investigation into the Baltimore Police Department that's resulted in federal oversight after findings allege the BPD engaged in a pattern or practice of unlawful and unconstitutional conduct. And with those findings came a promise of reform. Federal oversight has yet to deliver, but has earned millions in pursuing. 5 years later, we find a city still in shambles.
All of this is just slowly deteriorating.
Struggling to pick up the pieces even now, 5 years later.
I tell them I live on Mountain Pressbury, on the corner, in the Freddie Gray home. That's my house.
The Freddie Gray home, a name Harold Perry coined for his property, not because of the arrest, but rather this artwork.
They say, oh, you're the guy I used to see on the news and this, you know, and, well, how's that area now? I says, it hasn't changed that much, just different faces.
And Perry is not alone. The lack of change and progress is a sore subject in West Baltimore.
We had a lot of different organizations and associations come out here and march up and down the streets and hold their hands and arm in arm.
Promises of assistance, investment, and reform.
Where are they at?
All the community has seen are buildings torn down.
What's going on around here is because they couldn't solve the problem with the drugs that was being sold out of these buildings and the killings that was going on around here.
The relationship between police and the public remains rocky.
Even though the police claim that they changed the way they deal with the people out here, they still haven't.
Drugs have just infested everything and everybody and taken over this whole area.
In city neighborhoods, police reform has yet to pay off, where yearly thousands of fewer arrests are being made.
The crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
More than 300 murders for 5 straight years, and the city is on pace to see a 6th.
It's just changed as far as the new generation. They don't care about the continuity of families or anything like that anymore.
Baltimore becomes this country's deadliest big city. Reform aimed at reducing crime appearing to only fuel it. Meanwhile, members of a federal monitoring team tapped to help fix the problem continues to be paid, already earning more than $3.5 million to complete a job that's taken teams in some cities more than a decade to deliver. Coming up next week, we talk with a former Baltimore police officer caught up in the riots 5 years ago, what they cost him next week. Now, if there's a story you'd like us to investigate, we want to hear about it. You can call us at 410-662-1456, or you can send us an email to crimeandjustice@foxbaltimore.com. I'm Joy LaPola, and this is Operation Crime and Justice.